Good afternoon, bon après-midi. I like to say hello, bonjour, and tanzi to all the representatives of tribes, of bands, of treaties. I like to say hello to the elders. I like to say hello to dignitaries and all that remain. And I just want to say, I like to extend my thanks to everyone who came here to help discuss Indigenous history and promote the idea of reconciliation. And I'm just so honored to be here, to have my art represented as the symbol for this. And my painting here is here not as a means to end, but the beginning of a conversation. We've discussed conversations quite a bit. And it's here to be a vehicle for it, for people to look at and be like, I don't understand it, can you explain it to me? That's more of what I wanted my art to be. It's not going to change the world, but it's here to start conversation. So I would like to briefly talk about myself and of my past, so I think that's pretty key in how I got here. So hello, I'm Megan Benoit. I'm a Métis Cree student from Vancouver, British Columbia. I attend Simon Fraser University, and I am 18 years old. And so as you can tell from my last name, Benoit, it's French. I come from a long line of Acadians, which is another marginalized group in Canada. And I am actually 8th generation Acadian. So that's on my father's side. On my mother's side, it's Scottish and it's Cree. So as you can tell from that, I am very well, I have strong roots in the Canadian culture, which has only been strengthened by my involvement in Indigenous history. So my brother and I, back in Vancouver, we went to a public school for elementary school. It was a French school, so both him and I speak French. And we were put in the Métis program. And through that, we got to experience things most kids weren't able to. We went to potlucks, we made drums, we discussed Indigenous history to a certain extent. It was obviously, back then, it was less open as it is now with the new Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But it shaped me to who I am today, and I'm very happy with it. But it didn't really get strong, my blood, in me until I got into high school, because we have a fantastic program there for Indigenous students. We have youth leaders there that we can talk to about homework, about things that we struggle with, and just becoming more in contact with our Aboriginal past and not being ashamed of it. And I would go on trips to different things like Shishout, which is a reserve off of the coast of Vancouver that has a small museum, and that's where I first got interested in Indigenous art. But before that, I was interested in art ever since I was really, really little. But when I got into high school, I started joining art classes. And my art teacher was a lovely woman, and one of her best friends at the school just so happened to be the Aboriginal English teacher. So they both came to me during class one day, and they're like, hey, Megan, we have an idea. How would you like to enter these two contests and make Aboriginal art? And I was pumped at the chance because I was so excited because of the fact that I love art and I love history. It's something I've always been interested in. Plus, I was just getting into Aboriginal history. So I thought, what a perfect opportunity for me to blend two of my longtime loves with a newfound love for Aboriginal history. So I made my piece of artwork, which I'll explain in a bit, and I entered it into both contests. A couple weeks later, I got an email saying that my art was up for consideration. A week later, I found out that me and a few other kids from across the country had won. I was flown here to Ottawa. I got to go to the Governor General's. I got to meet him, shake his hand. I did a bunch of really, really cool things that were really humbling and honoring as someone who was just recently getting into Indigenous history and Indigenous issues. So I got to go and do that and learn about other Indigenous youth. And then I came back home. And about a month and a half later, maybe 2 months, I got an email saying that I had won the second contest. And once again, I was ecstatic. It was a euphoric feeling because I'm like, wow, from this one painting, I got to go on 2 trips as I'm someone on the West Coast. I've never really traveled anywhere besides Florida. So it was very exciting for me to do this. And so I got to go to Hamilton. I had my artwork put in an art gallery there. And me alongside, there's a few people in the audience here who I was with. 3 other Indigenous individuals who had their artwork and stories put up on display at the art gallery, as well as other artists that could not come to Hamilton at the time. And then I came back home, and this is kind of where everything really took off differently for me, because I started getting, back home, people started getting interested in my work and my identification as an Indigenous individual, especially since back when I was in Hamilton, I learned about blood memory. And blood memory is a very weird concept because it's so abstract, and it's difficult to explain to an Indigenous person in the first place. I can't even properly explain it, I'll try to, but it's even harder to explain to someone who is of European descent or otherwise. But the best way I can explain blood memory is, be here with me for a moment, bagpipes. So I know that sounds really, really weird, but if anyone hears of Scottish descent, it's that feeling that you get when you listen to bagpipes, and it's the feeling of your heart starts to pound, you're ready to protect your country. You may not actually have that strong roots in your actual lifetime to Scottish, but when you listen to bagpipes, you feel that connection. That's what blood memory is. It's blood percentage without numerical value. It's the blood of your ancestors coursing through your veins, and it had been there ever since I was little, but it hadn't really been tapped into until I've done these contests and experienced this. So I started getting more confident in my Indigenous identification, and I accepted a few things back home. For instance, I was Aboriginal valedictorian for 300 plus individuals in the Lower Mainland Surrey area back home, and I got to go have a speech and present them towards hundreds of Indigenous parents and elders, and it was on traditional ceded territory as well. And now I'm also taking classes at my university, Simon Fraser University, which is on Coast Salish territory. And I'm also finally accepted the chance to be here to discuss my art, which brings me to where I am now. So my artwork is an abstract interpretation of the medicine wheel. Now, some people in the audience might not know what the medicine wheel is, but it's a symbol that's really apparent throughout many Aboriginal cultures, not all, but many. And it's the 4 main elements of reality, which is the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And the concept behind mine is, I want you to notice when you look at it how they're not distinct lines as the traditional medicine wheel is normally seen. It's muddled, it's pushed together, it's distorted. Just like our past is distorted. Like through the eyes of the white man, through the eyes of whitewashing Indigenous history. That's the idea that I wanted behind it. And after I had done this, I tore up my painting, only to sew it back together. Because the point of me tearing up my painting is to show the gaping wound that is in Indigenous history, of the pain that Indigenous people go through and still go through. That's the motivation behind my painting, but I did this just to sew it back together, because that is what we are doing with reconciliation. We're using threads, we're using rope to crudely tie it back together because we're doing our best to do it, but it will never heal completely because we're not asking to put a Band-Aid on it, to put layers of bandages over top of the wound of the past, because if we did that, then we'd hide it. What we want is we want it to stitch together so it's no longer bleeding, but we want the scar to stay. Because the scar, no matter how gnarly, no matter how nasty and shameful it is a reminder never to do these horrible, nasty things again. So we want it to heal, and that's the point of reconciliation. And we want to tie it back together, and we want it to scar, and it will heal, and so will we. Thank you.